Okay, well, welcome to the first GJW Direct coaching session, which, as you probably see on the screen, is we're now under AP. Unfortunately, the weather forecast is looking rather nuclear for the weekend, so Draycote have made the difficult decision to postpone until the 4th and 5th of January. It's not the best outcome, but I think in the circumstances, really, it's probably in terms of lots of people travelling and things like that. So in terms of the arrangements, everyone will be transferred to the new event. There's a chance you can either move your entry if you can't make that to another event and there'll be no charge, or if you do need a refund, there'll be a small admin fee as per the notice race, but that'll be going out earlier shortly. Just a bit of sort of asking, if anyone's got questions, do put them in the chat box, and we will. Can you see the chat box, Simon?
Just looking for it. Well,
the one with a little speech, man. There we are. If I put a message in there, hopefully.
Look.
Please post your questions here. So I'm going to try and answer as we go along. Right. Okay. So got it.
Yeah. Fine. Thank you.
Right, okay. Well, fortunately, Andy Race can't be with us. He's off sunning himself in Amsterdam at the Met's trade show there, but he did send us a bit of a message. He's hosting the Yacht Racing Forum, which anyone knows is the great and good of the sailing world, and he's sort of hosting that. Simon and I have been left holding the fort here. But,
Simon Lovesey and I are so excited to have the support of Simon Horsfield providing real-world coaching for the first time ever in the Seldén Sailjuice Winter Series. So many of us go through our sailing lives without getting that outside perspective on how we're doing, whether we're sailing the boat flat or not, whether we've gone the right way or the wrong way up the race course. So with the support of GJW Direct, the insurance company that's helping us bring Simon Horsfield to the racing this year, really looking forward to seeing what you can get out of it. I'm at a trade show in Amsterdam. I'm at the Yacht Racing Forum in Metz, so I'm sorry that I can't join you for this first online session with Simon Horsfield, but I will be there with you in spirit and look forward to seeing you on the water really soon.
Right, okay. So also we've got a little video from the REA from last year. They were at the Dash, and they were there filming Tom Morris. Many of you might know him as Mozzie, the RS 800 national champion. I think we decided he was the RS 200 champion, didn't we, Simon, and the Europe champion?
Yeah, he won the Endeavour in the 200s a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So again, you know, like Simon, who's 3 times champion, we attract all the best sailors to the show. But the REA did a very good little video. I mean, it's quite useful to go back, and I think some good coaching tips in there, Simon, in terms of that. So let's just play that out as well while we just wait for everyone to join us.
Hello, I'm Mozzie, and this is the Dinghy Racing Channel, and this is Draycote for a little bit of a wet Draycote Dash. Forecast was pretty breezy, but I think this looks fairly manageable, so we're on for some good racing. So this is the RS 800, which myself and Guy will be racing today, and looking out over the lake, I think it could be quite a good day for us. Really 15 knots to 20 knots is our peak conditions, and maybe a little bit less than that at the moment, but it could build a little bit. So yeah, I'm backing ourselves to have no excuses, at least today, for the conditions, that's for sure. It could quite often be better for us to start at the least favoured end of the line, just where it's a bit clearer. you lose a couple of boat lengths in terms of the line bias, but you get clear air and you can really let your boat speed do the talking. And just keeping clear of the other boats as well. Like, it's a lot on a relatively small course for us, 109, 110 boats. So yeah, fleet avoidance is our strategy for the day. I think Tom Gillard's here. He's won a lot of stuff. So yeah, if I could take any races off him, that'd be amazing. There's some young kids here as well in the 420s, which if it gets a bit breezier, I think beating them will be a challenge. So got my eyes on them as well. Looking for a spot ready, maybe for this one, so. Just couldn't cheat on there. As always, there's a little bit of congestion. I think there was a few boat-on-boat incidents which we probably could have done a bit cleaner, but otherwise it's a really nice breeze, about 15 knots, a bit gusty at the top of the lake, but nice and steady down the bottom. So yeah, I think they will have gone well and hopefully done okay on handicap. Yeah, I think we had a few bad ley line calls coming into this bottom mark, especially the wind shifting round, going a little bit left in that race. Got caught out a few times on that, so getting our eye in, making clean roundings at the bottom, I think is where we've got gains to make. It was pretty good. It was really fun racing, a great breeze for us. We did, as the day went on, run into a few technical issues with a boat. We tore a sail in a batten pocket, and guy lost his trapeze wire in the last race, started floating around. But yeah, racing wise was good fun actually, having some good battles with the Mustang skiff. So yeah, great day in the water. I think all handicap racing, it's a great way to see a lot of different boats from the different classes around the country. So it's more of a kind of like a festival of sailing than a summer championships, which might be a bit more serious. So yeah, just enter, get on down, go for a sail round and get amongst it.
Right. Okay, I think it's a useful recap of a more calmer conditions. So before we bring Simon in, let's just explain what I'm trying to do here with the coaching. The idea is really to give people coaching support both beforehand, i.e. sort of briefing, and then during the event time, I think, and a post event roundup. Do you want to give us a bit of an idea of how that might look?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for the introduction, Simon, and thanks for everybody who's joined the call this evening. And I'm really grateful to be invited to do this by Simon, obviously, and Andy Rice. And I'm looking forward to the next 9 events. And it's a very different sort of like angle for me as a sailor, but also as a coach, to give you the insight into how really we managed to be successful over the 3 Seldén and Sailjuice Winter Championships that we were fortunate enough to win. So really, I just thought about how we do it. We're going to do a pre-event briefing, and we'll give you some information about the venue, the forecast, possible trends and what to look out for, and perhaps what format that particular club runs, because some of them do vary. Some of them have pursuit races, some of them don't. And then on the day itself, on the Saturday, I'll be in the dinghy park when you're getting your trackers. And please come round and ask me questions about your bow, any tuning or anything I can do to support you, maybe tie a few knots for you even before you launch. And then I'll be with Tim Olin, probably on the water. Tim and I will be in a boat. Tim will be doing some photography, as always, again, fantastic photos, and I'll capture some video and really look at which was the right way or not to go as we're going around. And then we'll follow that up on the Tuesday after the event with a little bit of a review of the weekend or the single day, depending on which event it was. And we'll use a little bit of tracking and some photography and video that I managed to capture. And that's our format, really, hopefully to support and help people, get around, really, and do better. So, we're here to promote, really, and get you further up the racetrack. I think in a nutshell, Simon.
Yeah, no, that's great. And obviously, Simon's the most successful Sailjuice and with Katie, obviously, and other crews. So I think there's a few lessons we can all learn from you, isn't there, Simon? In terms of the format is, I think, it's slightly different, obviously, from a national championship or an open meeting, isn't it? And I think you've obviously got your head around that and made it work. Perhaps we can sort of let's bring the slide up now in terms of some of the things that you've thought through.
Yeah. I mean, it's very different to doing a windward in a nationals or whatever course your nationals does. You're generally racing a fleet, so there's a specific formula that we came up with, which was helped us achieve success. Which we didn't always have success. We made errors and then learned from them, and really, hopefully, I can shed light on what that was and why we were successful. But some of the things that we put up on this slide here are things that I would do in any competition. And despite the fact that the Draycote Dash has been cancelled, it's actually an opportunity. And as a sailor and as a competitive sailor, I'm always looking for an opportunity. And actually, this has bought us some more time in order to hopefully tick a few of these boxes, if you haven't considered them before, ready for the revised postponed Draycote Dash on the 4th of January. So actually, I think it's an opportunity. And if you take sailing as you're going around the race course as an opportunity, you're always going to be having the right mindset, which is key in itself. So tonight, what I really wanted to talk about was what controllables can we control. So in a sport that is very uncontrollable, with wind, tide, weather, temperature, boats, there's lots of things we can't control. However, there's lots of things we can control. And again, we want to have that positive mindset to set ourselves up. So some of the controllables we can set up, we can do on the driveway or in the club before we go sailing. So what do Katie, my wife, and I do? Well, we are meticulous with boat preparation. So quite often when we go to these events, we see lots of boats being towed in. And it's not because the individuals can't sail. It's perhaps because they can't, they haven't, placed the O-ring. They haven't cut the top of the main halyard off an inch every time they go to a championship. They haven't done various bits and pieces. So what do? Well, we go from the bow of the boat and we work our way through. One does one side of the boat, the other person does the other side, and a little bit like on an airline, when they arm the doors and cross-check, we go and check each other's work on the other side of the boat, and that always unearths a knot, a frayed piece of line, perhaps one of the blocks is worn down one of the sides, and that's our opportunity then to replace those. So boat preparation is key. So firstly, before the event, and secondly, during the race, in between races, and definitely post day one is key. And I'm sure you, Simon, from the shore, see lots of people returning to the shore with little niff-naff and trivia breakages.
Yeah, well, that's right. And obviously, we're collecting the trackers, and you see people coming in with things that were avoidable, and unfortunately could have not happened. But it's getting it right. We were talking just about Sam Pascoe and how he'd sort of adapted the boat, isn't he? I think there's some sort of tricks there, aren't there, in terms of just getting some slightly different setups for this type of racing?
Yeah, absolutely. So here on the Sailjuice Wind Series, we tend to sail a trapezoid course, and if you're sailing an asymmetric skiff, predominantly they will sail a windward-leeward course. So when you're going across, in effect, on a trapezoid, the top reach, marks 1 to 2 and marks 3 to 4, there's a tight reach. And if you're sailing something like a Musto, you would generally not require the amount of main sheet that you do on a trapezoid course. So they would lengthen their main sheets in order to be able to dump more mainsail, because they're sailing much higher angles than they would ordinarily do so. So, you know, the question there, which Simon's alluding to, is your main sheet long enough for the course? Is the spinnaker sheet long enough for the course? Do you need to make a couple of subtle little changes? Are the jib sheets long enough? And certainly on a 2000 that we sailed, we had 2 sets of jib sheets. We had one that, for example, 5.5 meters, and we had one at 6.5 meters, and that allows us to sail a windy 2-sail reach. When you're going on a windward-leeward course, you don't need that line. So it's those kind of things that you make a difference. And yeah, great point, Simon.
I mean, that just came out of, I mean, Sam Pascoe blitzed everyone. I mean, you weren't there to challenge him, but he just sort of ran him off a bit. But it was clear that he put a lot of thought into it and made those subtle changes to the boat setup just to get him around, you know, suit the different sort of courses, and well worth putting the effort in.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, to look at the tuning, so you may well sail a single hander, or you may sail a double hander, and probably more so with the double handers, which have got shrouds. You need to think about the 2 or 3 mast rake settings that you might use through the wind range. And again, if you've got those numbers from the class tuning guide, which are readily available for all the classes online, and you can quickly put your boat into a different mode. So having arrived at the venue and it said it was going to be 10 to 15 knots, but actually it's 25 knots. If you get yourself in a position where you can quickly change that, having already done that at home on your driveway or the dinghy park, you're set up as well. So we have a little notebook for settings across the wind range, which we've done, and we can quickly change those to put them in the chain plate with seconds, rather than have to get the tape measure out. We can change as the conditions go. So the forecast, as we all know, is never generally accurate, and we need to react to that on the shore. And in some cases, we can do that. Some boats we can do that on the water. So get your tune in between now and the 4th of January for light, medium, and champagne conditions when it's blowing 25 knots. It is really key. What else do we do? Well, we go with enough. We drive a 4 transit van, and we've got enough equipment in there to go, whether it's going to be board shorts weather, which is unlikely, or it's going to be typically snowing like it is today down here in Hampshire. So make sure you've got the kit for across the wind range. Sounds simple, but make sure you've got all your bits and pieces. So again, this needs checking before you go. Arrive early. These are all the controllables. Arrive early. We've all, and myself included, arrived 30 minutes before the start and trying to rush and put the boat together. It's never a good thing, and you're always going to forget or miss something. So make sure you arrive early is key. And the only way you're going to know. Okay, you okay there?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, definitely right. I mean, because we had 109 entries for the Draycote Dash. I think I saw Richard Bottinger joined us, but those who've done it before, and there's a few on the call, it just takes a long time to get everyone up, parked, back down the car park, and so forth. So you can add a good hour almost in terms of from, say, just turning up at the club and just driving up to your boat and then parking there, which is not possible at these events. The Bloody Mary, might have 300 boats, and they've got to get them all up the ramp and back again. So well worth spending the time, and it's a nice social time catching up with people. So it's not a pain really, but just makes it just so much less stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And where do you find that information out? It's the most unread document in sailing. It's the Notice of Race, or NOR, which goes out long before the event is scheduled, and it tells you exactly when it's going to start, or the earliest it could possibly start. And then just factor back how long it takes to rig your boat, put your traffic factor in there. All sounds very basic stuff, but you know, if you do that, you're setting yourself up for success. So check the NOR, and also there's some really good information on the NOR, such as, yeah, what time is it going to start, number of races, therefore you can get your preparation, i.e. you can get how many snacks do we need? Do we need any warm clothing? Do we need some extra hats in between races? What course are we going to be sailing? What fleet are we going to be in? How is it going to be scored? And much more. So by reading the NOR prior to leaving the comfort of your armchair, you've got a good idea of quite a lot of what's going on. And all that knowledge releases the stress of when you get to the venue and reduces less flap time, which is really important. So preparation is key. And then a couple of days before, at the latest, but certainly a week before, you'll receive the sailing instructions. And this, for me and Katie, who I sail with, my wife, we read it on the way to the venue generally, and it sort of like gets us in the mindset for the day. And I realise if you're a single-handed sailor, you might need to do this at home beforehand. But for us, what we do is we read them on the way to the venue, and we've always got a rule book at hand to cross-reference any particular rules that we may not understand or can't remember. So SI's rule book in the van or in your car on the way to a venue is really helpful. And the SI's has got all the information you need to know, and it's just about extracting some key bits of information. So what information do I want from the SI's? Well, I want to know what the start sequence is. So is it a 5-4-1 go? And if you've read the SI's for the postponed Draycote Dash, it was going to be a 3-2-1 go, and they were going to be running 3 fleets. They were going to be running a fast, a medium, and a slow fleet. You would also know by reading that document how we were going to change any marks or what we were going to do. You also find out what the penalty systems would be. The course would be reiterated on there for you, and any time limits of starting or finishing would also be on there. So all this is really good information. And if you're on your journey to the venue, again here, you're setting yourself up for success. So SIs and NOR, really important. And just to really sum it up, so there's an endless list of controllable things. It's certainly larger than what I've just spoke about there. But what I do is if you remember this thing, and being a sort of like military kind of guy, I was always told it's my rifle, my equipment, and myself. Well, if you just turn that around a little bit, and if you change the rifle with my boat, so if I sort my boat out, then I sort my equipment out, I can then sort myself out. So don't rush to get your bacon butties and your coffee. If you sort your boat out, you're going to be in great shape. And if you find all your sailing kit out your car, you can then go and enjoy getting a butty. So my boat, my equipment, and myself is how I approach things. So those are the controllables, really. So prep your boat at home. Get some tuning settings. Have you got the clothing for the conditions? Arrive in good time to get your tracker. Perhaps read the SIs on the way so you know half of what's going to happen. And from there, you'll be in good shape in terms of preparation.
So I've just brought up the dash of last year again on the tracking, and I think it's perhaps useful just to talk. You talked about the course, Simon, and the starts. I think it's surprising how even people we see many years sometimes still don't understand it. And I think understanding the sequence, well, the different starts, which varies across the different events, I think is quite critical, isn't it, in terms of getting your tactics right.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so did you say the start there, Simon? Sorry.
Yeah. So well, this is race 3 of last year, but really wanted to show that obviously we have 3 starts. So here we have the first start going off, the Wasp blitzing away, obviously first round there, foiling and so forth. Then the mediums, RS200s, which I guess, well, you weren't there, weren't you? And then we get down to the Yilkas and the Toppers. But it's surprising how many people go in the wrong start. Is the first thing I've heard.
Yeah, and yeah, I've certainly seen it. Thinking, I'm sure they're not on our start. So absolutely, really key to get that what is the cutoff for your fleet. So are you in the fast, are you in the medium, or the slow? Well, I just mentioned the controllable. You can't control what the split is. That will depend on who's entered and how many entries there are, and then the race officer and race team will then make the best judgment they can. But what you can control is knowing which flag is going to be on your start, whether you're on, in this case, at the Draycote Dash, pennant 1, pennant 2, or pennant 3, and getting your rule book out on the back and having a look. So, yeah, hopefully we'll not have anybody this year going off on the wrong start, because they've looked at the SIs and found out what start they're on when they've looked at the notice book.
And I think the thing to mention is, Simon, that these starts vary across each event. As you say, it's down to the entry. I'm not sure. I think Richard's on the call. I guess you hadn't worked out what the starts were going to be. I mean, I had it around about a Phantom, the fastest one, but it will vary, and it will vary across the events. Some of the events we see are much more focused on the faster boats, so you have a lot of fast boats, and you might, even if you're a fireball, you might be in the second starts. Whereas other events, it can be the other way around, lots of slow boats. So you don't assume that you're always going to be in start 2, say.
No, a very good point. And on this split, it's really key. So as soon as you find that information, as soon as that's released, you need to do your homework on this, because if you're the fastest boat in whichever of the 3 fleets you're in, you've got lots of options. Because you're a fast boat, you can get yourself out of trouble at the start and you can pull away. And the benefit of that is clean air, which is key to being successful in this series. With 109 boats going around a small course, you need to get away, and in that it's going to be at least 33 boats in each of the start, all things being roughly equal. So if you're a fast boat, you have got much more opportunity, and you can pretty much start where you like. Whereas if you're the slowest boat in that fast fleet, your options, you can choose to start where you like, but you might not get the success. So I think the biggest secret to our success was taking the option, which you would never do in a fleet race, of starting at the wrong end of the line, or certainly in a different area to where you might ordinarily choose for. So I would turn down the 2 or 3 or maybe 4 boat lengths of bias for a clean start with clean air and options, rather than be buried at the start and my race lost. Because there's another dimension here, which is the fact that it's the average lap time, which is key to this, which we'll come back on to. So if you're a slow boat within your cohort of boats, think about where you might want to go. So knowing all the different types of boats there. So, you know, I sailed the 2000 and we didn't want to be anywhere near something like a Merlin Rocket or a 400, because we can't point as high as those. So we'd ensure that we weren't in that same piece of water. We'd not be worried about the bias. We'd more be worried about clean air and opportunity, which I think is key, Simon. No, I think you're on mute, Simon. Sorry, I can't hear you, Simon.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I'm saying that this changes per event again. Sometimes you might not have Merlins, you might have other classes, so you've got to keep readjusting your thinking, haven't you, across the series?
Absolutely. And in the 3 years that we sailed in it, we were sometimes slow, sometimes medium, and either at the fastest boat or the slowest boat. And clearly, if your boat is the faster of your start, you've got more opportunity. If you're slower in the start, you've got less opportunity. But unfortunately, that's just how it goes. There has to be a split somewhere, and your boat might fall one time in the good, and the next time it might fall in the not so good. But you've got to not look at it negatively. You've got to look at it, what can I do from this position? And there's always an option. So it might not be the best solution, but you can make the best of it and still be successful. Definitely. And yes, it absolutely changes every event. Okay.
Yeah, and I think your success and other successful is being able to adapt, change gears, make the most, get around the busy course, make sure you got the start right. That's sort of It just follows a pattern, doesn't it, after a while?
It does, yeah. So having decided that you're not going because you're not the quickest boat, and you don't want to start on the biased end, you might choose to start a third of the way down the line, or in the middle of the line. You've also got to calculate which way the wind may or may not shift. So if you've done your homework with the wind, if the wind is going to be stable, then you haven't got too much to worry about. But if it's going to go right, you automatically know you need to sail your boat over to right hand side to protect any shift. Or equally, if it's going to go left, you might need to protect the left. So your starting is based upon what the wind what wind's forecast to do, but also whether you can get your boat into a position where you can get to that side. And taking the bias might not be the best option. So it's multi-layers of things to consider.
Right. Okay. So I guess time for some questions, isn't it? If anyone's got any probing questions, please throw them into the chat box. It's having our start.
Cool. I just had one more thing on the average lap time, Simon, just while that's coming in, which was, as you're going around here, it's really key, and you'll notice for the starts are 3 minutes between the starts, and that's trying to keep everybody in the same sort of like wind window to make it as fair as possible. You couldn't have 109 boats on the start line at Draycote, so the best way of doing it is splitting it down as they do, and the time between the races is short. But the key thing with an average lap time is to get your boat around that racetrack as fast as possible. So you've got to get a good start. You need to get clean air, and you need to avoid traffic. And it's a drag race. You're not interested in your May 2 sails another aero, or I'm not interested in one of my competitors in the 2000 or the 500. I'm interested in effect, me, myself, and I getting around that course, because every time you use tactics, it costs speed, and that is adding to your lap time, and it's based upon your time sailed, the number of laps, and then depending on the number of laps on, they'll divide it by that to give you your time. So it's all about getting around that course as quick as possible. So keeping out of trouble is key.
Yeah, and I think the feedback from the likes of Mozzie, yourself, Sam Pascoe it's really a race against the clock, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a sprint, literally, and it's all about boat speed. And respectfully, a lot of people just think, oh well, my mate's there, and I want to beat him on the next tack. Well, forget him or her. It's about selling your boat and actually avoiding those situations and thinking ahead. And the successful sailors are the ones that are never in trouble. And my specific goal is to get around there as quick as possible.
Yeah, and it's interesting again when you look at the tracking, is how the likes of yourself and the winners often end up sailing quite a long course just to keep away from that traffic, keeping that clock, keeping that speed going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the number of times I've gone a lot further in necessarily the wrong direction, which proves to be the fastest direction, is really interesting. So you'd never choose to do that in a normal fleet race, but clean air is everything.
Yeah, I'm just sort of picking up on Sam Pascoe here. You can see how he's keeping his air, keeping away from the rest of them, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the only way to go with 109 boats in a relatively small lake. There's lots of turbulent air, and you've got to get out of it.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Oh, Jamie Blake, how can we match your boat speed?
What's boat Jamie saying?
He's in Ilka, isn't he? Aren't you, Jamie? You can speak if you want to.
Yeah, I was at Ilka 7. I seem to remember at Ratham Grand Prix 2 years ago. There was John, Emmett, yourself, Ben, and me, kind of all somewhat similar, but you always had probably 2 knots extra boat speed upwind off the line than any of the rest of us.
I think it's really a case, and that comes down to my super crew, who is, and we sort of like split the roles in our boat. So, you might not have the same luxury as we do. But what we do is Katie is looking at upwind boat speed, tactics, sorry, and I'm looking at boat speed. So I'm driving the boat super high, and Katie is picking out the wind and putting the boat in the wind, which has given us that. So we're always in the gust or where possible. And really what we're trying to do is hop from one gust to another gust. And if I drive the boat fast and the communication's high in the boat, I know the pressure's coming in, and I've got a picture of what's happening, and I'm able to just focus purely on driving the boat and keeping us out of any other trouble. So I'll only really take over if there's some traffic and I want to keep us clean air. So we have defined very distinct roles that we do, and it's all designed to keep the boat in the breeze for as long as possible. And that's really like the key formula, really, I think.
So you need a crew.
Yeah. If you haven't got a crew, you've got you've got it much harder.
Right. Anyone else got any other questions?
So just while anybody, if anybody, I'm sorry, Simon.
No, carry on.
Yeah, just in case anyone does want to film while he's typing, then really I just wanted to read you with 3 rules. So I give you 3 rules to consider. Rule number 1 is pretty much state the obvious, but rule number 1, which would be really appropriate for the Draycote Dash conditions, would be keep the mast in the sky, which sounds really simple. So don't capsize. And what I mean by that, it's how much does a capsize cost you in terms of time, but also how much in winter does it cost you in terms of fatigue? How many capsizes can you do before the cold has sapped your energy, in addition to the amount of time you lose from doing it? So it's all about, when it's windy, for example, keeping the mast in the sky, and you're always going to be in the sharp end, because lots of people capsize. And the reason they capsize is that they make a decision such as, oh, we'll go for a jibe here, when actually it was never on, and they go for a jibe and they'll capsize. Where if you're in a spinnaker boat, if it's 25, 30 knots, the right thing to do might be to drop, wear round and tack, and then hoist back up and do that. And I've certainly done that on 1 or 2 occasions, because capsizing in 2000, for example, would be catastrophic. It's unlikely, but catastrophic. So think about it ahead. Am I going to make this jibe? Yes or no? If the answer is it's a little bit 50-50, consider dropping, turning around and getting up, because keeping the mast in the sky is always a good thing. That's number 1. Number 2, around this super busy trapezoid course, it's about keeping in pressure, as I've said, and fundamentally clean air. And the third one, so that's rule number 2, and rule number 3, you need to avoid traffic at all times. So you might need to go the wrong way in order to keep clean air, and go a little bit further, but in clean air. Those would be my top 3 tips initially.
Right. Okay. Well, Charlie's coming with a question, sort of along some what you discussed. Any advice on the reaches regard to kite or not, especially if your boat's got a larger kite? I think you've got a 505, haven't you, Charlie?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is it 505, Charlie? Oh,
correct. Sorry, just trying to work out which button to press.
I can hear you now.
Brilliant. Hi.
So 505, yeah?
That's the one.
Cool.
That's
So
one,
yeah, kite or
yeah.
no kite? Kite is definitely, if you can keep the kite up on 3 of the 4 legs, about 75% of the course, you're on to a winner. And if the secret be out, and as I'm not in the race this year, how do we achieve success? Well, we could carry the spinnaker 75% of the course in a 2000 in virtually all of the wind speeds. So we might have at times come to some criticism, as it were, for having a boat that's got a handicap. That wasn't necessarily the case. It was the case that the kite's that small, you can carry it, and therefore the boat is sailing to its optimum for longer. So on that, if you can carry the kite, and if you can tune your boat to carry the kite for more of the time, you will be more successful. So when Simon mentioned right at the very start, of course, Sam Pascoe and his main sheet, I have a totally different setup for the 2000 on a trapezoid course than I do when I'm going on a championship windward-leeward course. And the aim to be is to set the boat up to go downwind for more power. Whereas on a longer windward-leeward, I might choose to set the boat up more to go upwind.
Yeah, but you've got a massive kite, haven't you, on the 505 now, Charlie?
Yeah, but the benefit of 5.0 is they have got a lot more options in terms of adjustment.
Yeah, you got a lot of string, haven't you?
Yeah, they can rake the mast, etc. So how you might choose to do that, Charlie, is you might choose to sail high beyond the windward mark by 20 meters in order to get the right angle down to the next mark.
Okay, so you're sort of suggesting sail a slightly longer, or a broader course, is that?
Absolutely, and that was something that we would always do if it was marginal. In order to keep the kite, because we know how fundamental it was, we'd sail above the windward mark and then come down.
Yeah, and I think that's the excitement of these events. Is we've got 85 different classes with probably 85 different characteristics somewhere in there, and it's not, no one technique is completely right, and as we found, it's not the same technique you might use at the national championship, is it?
No, absolutely.
Right. See, we got. I think that's, anyone else got any other questions before we wrap it up? Oh, Nigel, you asking a question, Nigel?
Yeah, hi Simon.
Hi, Nigel. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. I know when we sail with you and we go to coastal events,
yeah,
you always have a very in-depth analysis of what's going on around the coast. How do you make the same translation to doing something like the Sailjuice?
Or an inland venue?
Yeah.
So I think Draycote's a great example, actually. So once we've set the boat up for the day, we might then choose to stand on the balcony for 20 minutes. Grafham's another great one. Rutland's another. Sorry, not Grapham. Rutland and Draycote are great because you can stand on the balcony and you can look at the topography. You can see the land and you can see how it's running across the course. So you know roughly where the course is going to be. And then really you can get a real good idea of which way you might want to go as how the gusts are hitting the water. So that makes a huge difference, and you can do that whilst you're having a bacon sandwich on the shore. Is that something you do at Draycote, Nigel?
I wish we did more of it. I know the Severn Trent has done a lot of work at Draycote, so there's a lot of people who probably would have been coming this weekend who will be coming in January, who will notice that a lot of the trees that were there and created a bit of a wind bend have now gone. I'm not sure what the effects are. We haven't done a lot of sailing at Draycote at all this year. So we're in a bit of a learning curve with that again ourselves, and hence why I asked you the question. But if we do other events, Draycote's just one venue. There's an increased number of venues, and things like the topography are quite important. Clearly, there'll be those of us who understand stuff. That's not me. It was people like you. And there's people like me who are still trying to find out where the unusual characteristics occur.
Yeah, and absolutely, yeah, you can do that in those venues that we just mentioned about, your venue at Draycote and also at Rutland quite easily, and also Queen Mary. The other ones you might need to actually get out and just sail the boat. So I'm a great advocate for getting out early. And just doing a lap of the course and seeing what's happening. And if you're lucky enough to have a compass on board, you can get the numbers and go off to one shore and see what effects that might have. But one of the things we do is every time we go to a venue, we have we do a sort of like we've got a little report card thing, and we put all the wind direction, wind strength, and which way to go. and therefore when we go next time, we know what that is. But you make a great point now, because we chop those trees down, that might have a huge effect on that. So we'd have to go out and have a guess at that, or go out early and check that. So you make a great point. So
Okay,
the answer would be go out early. Thanks, Nigel.
Well, I suppose that's no local knowledge benefit now.
Yeah, no, we're doomed.
Well, the locals are doomed. But,
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about keeping those records and trying to build up a a portfolio of knowledge, isn't it? That you can quickly turn it on. And good point about using the balconies. So not all clubs have balconies or suitable balconies.
Sadly not.
Or if it's like that shit, it's underground.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. I think that's all the questions. Right. Well, that's been really useful, Simon. I mean, we should be saying see you on Saturday now, shouldn't we? But
we should. Yeah. Sadly not. Yeah.
Not.
Sadly
But
not.
hopefully we can see most people in the new year. But obviously we've got Datchet coming in a couple of weeks' time. So that's again a bit of a different venue, isn't it? So we can sort of have the same process. A couple of weeks' time. Talk that through. And in the meantime, if you've got any questions, we ping them over and we'll try to answer them. But hopefully you found this useful. We've sort of evolved with the format, but I think it's good. We've got 25 people on the call, so there's certainly some interest despite the event not going ahead. I guess if there's more people, we'd have had nearly 100, but it's good that they're there. And we'll look forward to seeing in 2 weeks' time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, looking forward to it.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Good evening, and don't get too blown away. Looking, I think people had some snow today. I think on the I don't know that we saw in the southwest.
Yes, definitely. Yes, it was snowing here in Emsworth today. So.
Yeah, it's all that random weather, but there's no wind around at the moment, so it is what it is. But that's sailing. That's the beauty of the sport, isn't it? It's never the same, never consistent, and that's what we love. Right. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Sending the call.